Okay, we are going to hear an introduction by Sam Williams, who is our Delegate Council Steering Committee Vice Chair, before we head back into breakout sessions to take a deep dive into communications. So if we could launch Sam's video, I would appreciate it.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sam Williams, and I'm the Vice Chair of the Delegate Council Steering Committee. And I'm happy to be with all of you today, this morning, to discuss the topic of communication and communication's role in the Delegate Council operating successfully and most healthily. So let's begin. First off, the 3 C's of the Delegate Council. That's what we're calling communication, collaboration, and council, and how all 3 of these are vital for the Delegate Council to operate successfully. And ultimately, everything rests on the firm foundation of good communication. And what we're going to be talking about is what that good communication looks like and how we can do it together. And as you can see, communication affects collaboration. Communication affects council. And when we have good communication, proper collaboration, and successful council, we're going to have a strong delegate council. Our vision for communication at NGS and with our delegate council is that it's to create open and transparent communication between delegates, between member organizations, and to and from the NGS Board of Directors. This morning, our learning objectives, the things that we want to make sure that all of us leave this get-together, this gathering this morning, is that at the end of the session, we will understand the importance of and how to communicate success stories and challenges with NGS. We're going to understand how to share events through the NGS website, and we're going to understand methods for communicating within the Delegate Council. And lastly, we're going to understand how communication flows in the NGS structure. Because remember, the new NGS is still relatively new for all of us. So this is going to be a learning process of how NGS works and how we're going to be working as part of a team. But what is communication? When we're discussing this concept of communication, what does it look like? We all do communication in various different ways, sometimes successfully, sometimes not as successfully. And with the Delegate Council, we want to make sure that we are communicating effectively. And what is that? It's imparting, exchanging, sending, and receiving information or news. We know that fundamentally, intellectually, right? But what does that look like when we want to have proper communication? It's being sharing. It's being open and trusting between 2 individuals as part of a relationship. And that also means that we're avoiding assumptions when we're communicating with one another effectively. It also means being polite, just like you would want someone to be polite with you. And as a community of professionals, and maybe not professional genealogists per se, but we all need to be working together in a professional way. And these are things that affect our communication. It also means that we are listening to one another. We can't be heard if we're not listening to the person we're communicating with. And we're also going to see how communication affects how we can use NGS's communication resources. Now, we all have expectations when we enter into any relationship. When we're communicating with someone, we have expectations of those around us. And in the same way, we are going to have expectations as delegates of NGS as a whole. The first thing is that we expect NGS to be transparent, for us to know what's going on with NGS. We also expect and hope that NGS will provide us with practical solutions for our organization's issues. We might also expect NGS to broadcast information to organizations on a regular schedule. These are all part of communication. And lastly, we also might expect that NGS will respond to correspondence in a timely manner. We hope, not in months, but also not in seconds. We need to have appropriate expectations for all of these communication. But also NGS is going to have expectations of us. because we as delegates of the Delegate Council need to make sure that we are communicating to one another and to NGS effectively. So first, remember that you represent your organization. And in representing our organizations, we need to be representing them in a professional manner rather than assuming that we are here in a personal manner. We also need to have a realistic expectation of the solutions that NGS can provide, because NGS isn't going to solve all of our organization's struggles or issues, but they can provide certain solutions, and we need to learn what that's going to look like. We should also remember the human on the other side of the screen or the phone. All of us have grappled with that more in the last year than ever before, as we're stuck behind screens almost as we are today. But when we are communicating effectively with another person, we should remember the human on the other side of the screen. That also means remembering that we're all volunteers here. So also be sensitive with each other's time, and remember that there are differences between personal correspondence and public forum content. What do I mean by that? Well, oftentimes when we're behind a screen, we forget how we would normally act with each other if we were in person. That sometimes when we don't have a camera on or we're just typing with each other, we might show a little bit more frustration than we would if we were communicating in person. So always remember the difference between the type of things that we share in a public venue versus the things that we might share through a personal email. Now, how can the Delegate Council support your organization? It can help us share success stories with one another and also get help with challenges that we might face in our organization. How can we share success stories with a DC? First, we can share what's working within our organizations, what's working well with us, and we can share that with one another for success stories. We can also see what are some of the recent achievements that we're noticing within the genealogy community. What is working well for all of us? But we can also see and get help with the challenges that we are facing within our organization. What isn't working for us? And what are some wider challenges that are facing all of us as members of the genealogy community? And how can you get that support from the DC? Another way is to share events. We have this genealogy events calendar on the NGS website. So what's coming up within your organization? You might want to let us know. That way all of us can benefit from knowing what's going on locally and nationally. Remember, there's no limit to the number of events that you can share from your organization. But we need to remember also the appropriate person that does that shares that aspect of communication. And in this situation, that would be your account administrator. So you can go to that by ngsgenealogy.org/events/calendar-submission. How do we communicate when we have a collection of over 400 organizations? As you can imagine, for any of you and your organizations, whether they are very small with a handful of people, or whether your organization is a collection of hundreds of individuals, either way, we all know the struggle of communication. If we are not communicating effectively, we might look sort of like a ball of yarn, just all these different little bits all wrapped up and discombobulated. It's just not going to go well. So we need to make sure that we're communicating well and that we're managing these communications effectively so that we have less of a ball of yarn and more of a beautiful tapestry that's woven together effectively and is put together appropriately. So how can you communicate with us? How can you communicate with each other? Some of the ways that we're going to be working together as the Delegate Council is through the Facebook group, the NGS Society and Organization Leaders Forum. And that's at facebook.com/groups/NGS Members Forum. That's a place where we're already working together as members of various NGS societies and organizations. But we're also going to have something really exciting coming up. We have later this year Higher Logic, it's a new membership community. And this is going to be something we're going to be hearing more about as we go along, but it's going to be an opportunity for us to communicate with one another more often, to stay connected with NGS and with each other as delegates within the Delegate Council. But we also should know about communication within GS as a whole. What does that look like? How does a delegate connect with the Delegate Council and with the NGS board more generally? Well, first off, you are a delegate. So you are connected with the Delegate Council. And so you connect and communicate with us as a member of that council. But we also have the VP of Society and Organization Management. And this individual is going to be the person that connects us as the Delegate Council to the NGS Board of Directors. And we're going to hear more about what that structure looks like later today. But for now, we just need to remember that communication is going to affect how we transition and connect between these different aspects and venues within our NGS structure. Now, today we have learned a little bit about communication, I hope. We've seen how communication flows within the NGS structure. We've talked about some methods for communication within the Delegate Council, how we're going to work with one another. We also saw how we can share events with the NGS website. We also saw how we can share what's working well and what isn't working so well within our communities, our organization, and our genealogy community as a whole. And lastly, we discussed the importance of and how to communicate issues and these success stories within NGS. Thank you for discussing and listening to our discussion of communication this morning, and I look forward to our continued discussion and effective communication together. Thank you.
And thank you, Sam, for the introduction. Just a quick reminder, entire session is being recorded. We're also going to synthesize a lot of what comes out of the breakout sessions in a group report out, and we'll provide some written summaries after the event. We're going to head into a breakout group now to take a deep dive into communication. We're then going to return to the full attendee group for a report out after that discussion. We've got about 40 minutes scheduled for the breakouts. So if we can transition to AVs, please.